Hello guys, back with another video. Sorry for the short hiatus. I've just been taking a step back and just observing how much I've been interacting with my screen. And mind you, I'm not a heavy phone user. I use my phone mainly to interact with my family and clients and whatnot, and I'll consume content in the form of long form videos on YouTube, but still I feel I needed to kind of just take a step back and in my downtime just not be on any screen at all. And for me, this has helped when I've done this and I've gone through long periods of kind of cutting out screens and phones and any, let's say, synthetic stimulus, right? It's helped me to have better thoughts and be far more energized on retention. I noticed that I might spend 5 to 10 minutes when I say I'm going to relax on my phone, and I'd come back still feeling I need to relax. So it's the dopamine, short form content and whatnot. And so this is going to be a conversation slash maybe, I don't know, I'll be drawing out some of my ideas on the board, and I'd like to hear your thoughts as well with regards to what I'm going to put on the board too. And so having better ideas, being more creative can be stunted, I think, because we're constantly bombarded with stimulus. It's like the phone is now attached to a modern human. Like if you're born in 2025 and on and up, it's like you come ready, with the hand grip, like those toys, to insert the, accessory. The accessory is going to be a phone. And it's funny because I was driving past the supermarket and I observed the workers who were on their lunch breaks, and every single one of them, they were just on their phone, just, scrolling away. I don't think there's no shame in that. It's a good way to escape from, work and whatnot. But it's so pervasive now. Everywhere you go, you see it. And so it's something that's been affecting me. And so I've just taken some time to observe how I'm using my phone and have better thoughts while on retention, be more creative. And this can only be done by just being in isolation for a time, not having any stimulus and just sitting in a room literally for, I'd say, upward of 5 minutes, just to clear out all of the muck in your brain. And I'm not talking about guided meditation with breathing and focusing on, the energy centers. No, I'm just talking about just sitting down and not having anything in your hand and not having anything to kind of visualize on a screen. And if you want to think about having better creativity on retention, let's look at it like this, right? In the Bible, it talks about from the darkness came light. I like to sit in a room, a dark room, and I'd say for upward of 5 minutes, just organize my thoughts and something will speak to me. It might come in the form of, a video idea, it might come in the form of a project or business idea. So it makes sense, right? If we look at the universe, right? From the black and the abyss, right? We have from this void, essentially, right? Darkness, okay? So this is our unmanifest, and something is communicating to us. When I am in this dark space, boom, I get an idea. Creation, okay? Something like this. And so I think it's essential on retention to have these periods whereby if you want to produce something in whatever field you're in, do this. Sit in a dark room. And life is a video game, right? There are different hacks, right? This is a hack that's worked for me, okay? And so life is so complex, right? Multifarious, I'd say, is that there's no one method, there's no one code that we can put in the controller to give us, a successful result, right? Your purpose is different to my purpose, and everyone else's is different to everyone else's. And so whatever your purpose is, experiment with different things. Think outside of, the box. But this is something that I've used consistently to have more creativity. The higher echelons speak to me, right? I get some thought or some business idea. It's communicating. And so from darkness comes light, right? But also on retention, I think it's good to observe patterns. And right now in Brazil, it's winter. We often see winter arc, and we know winter arc for those of us who train. It's become viral, right? If I'm not mistaken, on social media, we see it's a period where you just really hone in and you focus in on your body goals. You're just grinding. Nothing is said, right? You're not showing too much. You just go into the gym or wherever, you do what you need to do, you operate quietly. And so speaking of observation and having time away from synthetic stimulation in the form of phones and just screens in general, like, think about it. They are, or the screens and what we consume, these are already created things, right? And so these created things can serve, yes, to inspire, but if we want to be a cut above the rest, right, and stand out, make some form of progress, we have to have our own organic ideas inspired by something that we cannot physically see, right? And so when I mentioned just being in darkness, right, from the darkness comes like our creative spark, a new way of doing something. And so looking at the seasons and observing how animals operate in different seasons, I'm going to connect that to retention, right? And we know that practitioners such as myself and you guys watching the video, we know that retention, our main purpose on retention is just to harness the life force, transmute it, and put it into something beyond our flesh, right? And I'd say most of us agree that the purpose, if we're going to have intercourse, will be for procreation. And we've had to fight against our carnal desires to not give in, though sometimes we might, right? But we understand the underlying messages and principles of retention, right? So the purpose of procreation. And so looking at nature and looking at animals and how they function, right? We know the mating rights are fought for tooth and nail to the death. And there's a period in which animals mate, right? The period in which they procreate, they have their mating season. So animals can show far more restraint, maybe unbeknownst to them, and they know that everything happens in a cycle. They're operating solely on a mechanical, a bio-organic process. They just do it because that's what's been coded into them, right? Their mating season, that's when they're going to look for the opposite sex. But we use that force for our indulgence, for our hedonistic, pursuits. But in observing nature, right, and trying to align our actions with nature, we can become more than. So we know retention. Okay, I'm only going to use this to procreate, right, when the time is right. Anything else, it's not happening. And so thinking of observing nature, we have the seasons. And if you look at how animals operate within the seasons, and if you look at just the shift in energy with the seasons, you too can align your purpose on retention, right, for these seasons. So let's think a little bit about the seasons we have here. Let's begin with summer. Okay, I'm gonna start like this. Spring. What do we have here? Autumn. And winter. Okay. And so whether you're launching or you're planning on launching a new business, or you have an existing business or project, and you want to modify that project, this is again my hack, right? And it would make sense aligning ourselves with the most potent of law, which is God's law or the universe's law. Okay, and so being in sync, will we not, as divine beings, see divine success, right? And so if you look at habits, okay, so let's look at what happens in winter, right? In winter, people tend to wrap themselves up. I notice they withdraw, right? It's cold, right? So people are far more, from my observation, people are far more restrained, okay? It's hard, it's cold, you don't feel, in general, there are people who enjoy it, and a lot of people in cultures that enjoy winter, right? But winter in England, I know, can be hard. It's freezing cold, you're traveling to get to work on the bus, public transport, whatnot. And so I'd say the energy removing Christmas is that of a restrictive energy. And so looking at it from, let's say, an esoteric perspective, what could you do here? Apply the winter arc principle, right? So it would be, yeah, winter arc. This is going to be a period where on retention, now a slight tangent, just keep in mind, right, you want to use your fuel, right? And you want to use your fuel, which is the semen, right? You want to put it into your car, which is our vessel. You want to drive it towards its destination, okay? And so these are just some templates, right, in order to help the vessel or the car get to its destination more efficiently, okay? And using less gas, okay? Using less of the divine resource. And so in the winter arc, what usually happens, okay? So we see the person locking in, okay? Low key, right? And esoterically speaking, this is also where we work on now. We begin to, from the autumn, where we've shed our summer, I'm going to go through all of it so it's more coherent. From the autumn where we've shed, okay, our existing self, this is where we begin to lock in and focus on the new version of ourselves. So it could be your body. You are at 90 kilograms, but you want to hit the goal of 100 kg of, let's say, lean muscle mass. And you've, in this transition from autumn to winter, you have visualized the steps and you've researched what you need to do in order to do that. So you said, okay, these are the foods I'll need to be eating. This is the change in gym plan that I'll need to adopt, okay? And so it's a good period for introspection. I'd say all seasons are good for introspection, but I'd say winter, when everybody is somewhat more reclusive, right? It's cold, you want to cuddle up under a blanket at home. This is a very good time for introspection on retention and making tweaks to maybe your existing self, your existing project, okay? And then in the winter arc period, in winter now, you're locking in and then you're working and you're fine-tuning the details, okay? So let's put here introspection time, okay? And what was I going to say, right? Working on new you project, okay? Resource collection, right? So again, if you just observe nature and what happens, what do animals do in this period, right? They tend to, so resource collection actually would happen in autumn, and then winter now, that's where, so let me remove, sorry, resource collection from the winter period. That's where resources are harder to come by. So what I've noticed is with businesses, doing things during the winter season has been a bit more challenging, right? People tend to hold on to their money a bit more here because they've just come back from holiday. The holiday season's over, and you know, the purse is a bit shallow. There's not much coin left to go around for, you know, other expenses, and so people are a bit more restrictive. And so in autumn, this is really where you'll do your resource collection. Resource collection. Your resource collection here. Okay, and so in the form of, let's say, body goals, it will be you now planning ahead, getting the information required to, during the winter arc, right, when you're in that period, to hit that target of 100 kg. Okay, and so this is where you'll be shedding, right? We know the leaves fall off the trees, everything turns brown, okay, or dark orange. This is also a period where, okay, we shedding of the self, right? Could be the shedding of the old you on retention. So you've taken it on a yearly basis, and now you've looked in your book and you said, okay, I've reached the year now. What were my observations of this year? How did I do going forward? What would I envision, or what do I want to see in myself as an individual on retention? And craft now and begin to shed the old you, okay, begin to compile elements to put together the new version of yourself, okay? And so spring is where I would begin to express, okay, whether that be in the form of business or just the new you coming out, right? Test, okay? Test the waters with the new you. That's when, again, in spring, things begin to pop up, right? And show themselves. This will be a good time to launch something, right? Launch a project, right? Launch a new initiative, okay? This is where the new you begins to show themselves more. Maybe in content creation, you begin to test the waters and appear and put more content out. Who knows, okay? So I'm going to put the summer one here, okay? And summer, okay? Now this is a good time for complete expression, and this is where you go out and following the work you've done here, right? Following the work you've done here, okay? You go back full cycle from here, then you go down to here, okay? All through to here again, like this. And summer will be the time of expression, okay? Fully leaning into the new you and applying that new you into any endeavor that fits what you are. That could be a business endeavor, could be any endeavor, okay? So you're going to now fully express yourself and show yourself to the world for whatever purposes you have set in stone, okay? So time of expression. And summer, we know, vibrance, colors, right? So that's a very good time to now fully lean in. If you have a project, you know, some business is going, you launch more marketing campaigns, you go very heavy into the social media and whatnot. And so this is just my 2 cents on how to use the seasons and align it with your fuel on retention, right? So retention already gives us this restlessness of energy, and having a somewhat map or guide. This is my own map that I use and will continue to use, and I've yielded great results as a result from approaching it like this, right? For both business and also with regards to my just internal work. Okay, so we have the 4 seasons. Keep in mind, observing, right? Take some time away from the screens. You know, I know sometimes we might get notification anxiety. I grayscale my phone now just to reduce that. So I put my phone in another room if I just want to have some downtime and spend time in a dark room, right? From darkness comes light. From darkness, we can get that divine communication to us, right? We don't have an Instagram or Snapchat feed blocking the bridge between us and the divine communication. So the more time you do that, who knows, the more innovative and creative ideas you guys come up with. Okay, I've often had video ideas come from just sitting in the dark and boom, it just comes to me and the video is already planned, ready to go in my head, and all I do, I just jump in here and I click record. Okay guys, so look after yourselves. Again, don't count the days, make the days count. Until next time.